You guys were obviously really short defensive line linebacker the last time you played. How's that group specifically doing? And are there Manny said you guys feel pretty good that at most groups that you guys are in good position to play, you kind of feel the same?
Yeah, I think in a lot of cases by Saturday we'll probably be more at full strength than we've been, the last time out. So definitely excited about getting a lot of those guys back and getting them into the flow of things and watching them play again.
Coach, we've got David Lake from 24/7. David, go ahead.
Coach, I want to ask you about your young corners, Marcus Clark, Isaiah Dunstan, and just how they're coming along in practice this year, and what traits have they maybe flashed that you've seen so far in practice?
Yeah, I think both of those guys are really starting to develop. The number one thing that probably pops out for Marcus Clark is he's a ball hawk. He has a background playing offense and defense in high school, but it seems like every time the ball's near him, he ends up walking away with it. So really encouraged with just his playmaking ability and ability to make balls or make plays with balls in the air. And then Isaiah Dunstan, man, he's a competitive dude. He's just got dog in him. He's super long. He likes using his length at the line of scrimmage. Very, very coachable. The big thing to me about Isaiah is when you tell him how you want something done, he is going to try his hardest to get it done. And if he doesn't do it in practice, you'll see him after practice working on the pads, working on his footwork. His work ethic is really, really good.
You mentioned it with Marcus, but I think both guys played some offense in high school. When you evaluate corners, is that something that you do look for ideally for the
sometimes I think I don't necessarily, I wouldn't say it's a prerequisite. It's not a box that has to be checked, so to say, but I think you can tell a lot about a guy's athletic ability with the ball under his arm, so it never hurts him, I'll put it that way.
Coach, we've got Susan Miller-Degnan from the Miami Herald. Susan, go ahead for Coach Baker.
Hey, Coach Baker. So Manny's been talking about gradually working, the team gradually working its way into shape kind of as much as you can through this week. But you only have really 3 days, I guess, to do it, right? Today, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then walkthroughs and whatever else, travel. How will practice be for the defense a little bit different this week? And how do you work some specifics on what you'll be doing different and how you work yourself up?
I think the biggest thing we have to do is we're obviously going to try to get as many people reps as possible. And what I mean by that is some guys can come to practice, but they might not be able to go full speed yet. Just through medical clearance protocol, things of that nature. So even if, specifically some of the scout team stuff may be more of a walkthrough type deal, just so these guys are getting reps versus what Duke does. Where, obviously if you're not in this situation, everything's full speed. So I think that's probably one of the biggest things is more walkthrough reps in the middle of a practice. I know we're still want to try to get as much, good on good as we can. So our guys are used to the speed by Saturday night, because, we haven't been out there in a while. So, I think that's probably going to be the biggest change.
And then the other thing is, how has Al Blades responded to Corey Couch kind of rising, I guess, on the depth chart or whatever you'd call it, playing more? I would think that has to be a little tough, regardless of how much of a team player and leader he is.
Yeah, I'm sure it's tough, but he's responded very well. Al's a competitor. And, if you watch him throughout an off-season work, and obviously this is different, once we're playing the game, but the guy likes to compete regardless of his circumstance. And that's a huge credit, because like you said, not all guys are wired that way. So I've been impressed with the way Al has responded, and I think we'll see more of the same this week.
Coach, we've got Barry Jackson from the Miami Herald. Barry, go ahead.
Hi, Blake. Obviously, you've made some playing time changes during the course of the season with Corey playing more, Jared Harrison-Hunte playing more. But as you looked at tape from, during the break the last 2 weeks, is there any one or two guys you would like to get more playing time to, ideally, presuming they're healthy?
That's a good question. Off the top of my head, it's what I always say. We want to play as many guys as possible, especially those young defensive ends. We'd like to be able to give Jalen and Quincy a little more of a rest. That's probably where there's the biggest discrepancy between a starter and a backup is probably a defensive end as far as playing time. So hopefully we can get those guys in there a little bit more this week. And, outside of that, this is probably one of the more balanced defenses when you look at overall reps from maybe a starting position to a backup position that probably I've ever been around. And that's a good thing to have as a defensive coordinator. Like I always say, you can't just go out there and play 11 guys anymore. And the more we can play, the merrier. But yeah, I would say probably the biggest discrepancy is defensive end. If we can get those young guys in there, more often, that'd make us a better defense.
And that's Harvey and Cam Williams. Is Chance Williams able to help you yet? And this, of course, presumes all are healthy.
Yeah, I think Chance Williams, he's another guy. We talked about the two corners earlier, but I think Chance is really making some strides, and I definitely could see him being a guy that helps us.
Thanks, Blake.
Coach, we got time for a couple more. We're going to go to Gary Furman at Cane Sport. Gary, go ahead for Coach Baker.
Hi, Blake. How you doing? I had a chance was looking at some NFL draft projections, and I noticed that the next level is looking at Quincy Roche a lot as a linebacker. And I wanted to get your opinion on what skills are you seeing that you think is inspiring that, and what went into the decision by you guys to utilize him as a defensive end as opposed to a linebacker. And we had seen this a while back before you came here, but it was Anthony Chickalo was an example of a kid that played defensive end here and was a decent defensive end, but he's now lasted many, many years in the National Football League as a linebacker. So just was curious to get your thoughts on that and how college defensive ends translate to NFL linebackers, and then also why you guys chose to use Quincy as a defensive end.
I think, the part about using him at defensive end, I think, that's where he's most comfortable at. That's what he played at Temple. And, it's funny how the NFL sometimes labels linebackers or outside linebackers who are really just defensive ends, in a 4-3 scheme compared to a 3-4 scheme. So I think sometimes that kind of gets those two positions overlap a lot, I would say. And I could definitely see Quincy, going to a 3-4 and being a super productive outside linebacker. He's a guy that really flourishes and when he drops into zone, we don't utilize him that much in that department. But I know at Temple he did drop more often, especially on third down. They kind of dropped him in a little honey hole. But I also think he has incredible instincts. He could be a guy instinctively that does slide inside to an inside linebacker position because his instincts are really, really, really good. So I could see him being really productive at either one of those positions. But in our defense with a four down front and something we pride ourselves on is getting after the passer. He definitely checks all those boxes when it comes to getting after the quarterback.
Thank you.
Awesome. Coach, last one for you. We got Chris Stock from InsideTheU. Chris, go ahead for Coach Baker.
Coach, with Jared Harrison-Hunte, maybe talk about his development. I know you've been high on him all year, and obviously he's playing more, but just is he a little bit further ahead in his development than you expected coming into this year, about what you expected, and then also just what you're looking forward to seeing him either do more as the season comes to an end here?
I think, overall he's probably honestly a little bit ahead of where I maybe thought he was going to be, just because he hasn't played that much football. So I would say that's probably a fair assumption, is that he's probably a little bit ahead. But the big thing I want to see with Jared is just consistency. He's a guy that has been making a lot of plays. He is a guy that has continued to get better and better from a technique standpoint. if he just continues to do what he's doing as far as improving his technique, improving just the small things, his stance, his hand placement, his block recognition. I mean, what he's been able to do over the course of this year from a week in, week out, just steady grind, steady improvement. If he just continues to do that, he's going to be, like I continue to say, he's going to be a very, very good player for us. So I just want to see him continue to grow. I still think he's just scratching the surface on how good of a football player he can be, and excited to watch him grow every single week he gets an opportunity to go out there and play.